So EA Sports has just recently released on Twitter, some fighter star ratings. So instead of going to like the star ratings that they posted on Twitter, we're just going to go directly to the EA website. And we're going to talk about this, right? Now, with the ratings and this updating stuff, I think it's cool to let us know right away who are the top guys, but don't be deceived, right? With UFC 3, we had a letter grade system, so we had the A+, A fighters, A-, B+, B. Y'all get what I'm saying? And I felt like I liked that grading system a lot better than, say, this kind of overall system with the stars. I know the stars might seem more flashy, but it can be very, very inaccurate. For example, in lightweight, when Conor McGregor lost to Dustin Poirier, and he tweaked him out with like the house stats and everything else like that, the striking stats tend to have more weight in terms of like the whole overall value versus if you were to subtract something from another category. I don't recall off the top of my head how it works, but I do remember that the striking had more of an effect. So, EA, not even EA, it wasn't even EA, the UFC, right? And a certain bald man, not DC. They don't want to nerf a guy that they like a lot. They don't want to nerf a guy that they're buddy with. So they did something very sly, very sneaky to make it seem like that he had gotten nerfed. So they subtracted his striking speed by -1. When they subtracted his striking speed by -1, it was able to drop his overall after like the health nerfs down to a 4-star. So you had this guy, Conor McGregor, down to a 4-star. Here's the problem with that. He has a perk, I think it was like either it's laser focus or fast hands, one of those two. And if you guys had watched my UFC 4 perks video where I broke down all the perks and what do they do, that's a plus. Usually for most of these perks, it's like a +5 or +4 in those areas, depending on which one is which, or +3 if it's like one of those stamina perks. You get what I mean. So if Conor McGregor's already, say, at like a 96 punch speed or 97 punch speed, right? And you subtract -1, you're like, yeah, -1. That's really great. Yeah, it's really great until you realize, the game doesn't go past 100. So that +5 is already there from the perk. So even though you subtracted that -1 or what, even let's say a -2, if he's still at a 95, it doesn't matter. He's actually going to still be at 100 punch speed. So there was really no nerf. Now you have somebody who is just as good as all the other 4.5 star rated fighters, but he is rated a 4-star because something is weighted heavier than another statistic. And that didn't really sit well with me. So I would always call Conor, this is the fake 4-star at lightweight. I'd even say the same thing for Max Holloway. Even though he didn't have too much power, power being one of the heavier ratings on the striking side, he still had level 5 moves with the level 5 jab and straight. Still had just a better diverse move set than a lot of other guys who were equally rated 4 stars as him. So I didn't really, that's part of where like my gripe came with the star system. So I'm not really too happy with the star system. At the very least, put like a 4.25 or something, just be a little bit more accurate there. But, that's kind of like my gripe with it. But, they're showing us right here, right? Sean O'Malley, Aljamain Sterling, Corey Sandhagen, Marlon Vera, Merab Dvalishvili. Doesn't mean that these guys are the de facto best top 5 guys in the division. If these perks are going to be exactly the same from UFC 4, right? If they are going to be exactly the same, I don't know if they're going to be adding new ones or anything of that nature. I have no idea. I'll be honest with y'all. Then, guys like Peter Yan, he's going to be right there with these guys numerically. So even though this is like the top 5 that we see right now, it's not really true. Same thing with like men's featherweight. Aldo is retired. So it's probably, we guys see the screenshots. It's a UFC Legend edition of Aldo. And Aldo's only lost to Conor, Holloway, Volkanovski in featherweight, right? And pretty much, has the longest title, defenses, etc., etc. Ilia Topuria has been making a name for himself. He's undefeated. These are, top 5 guys. But however, Aldo, you don't see Aldo too much in comp play because these guys, their health stats are, even the Conor's health stats, the health stats also consider cardio and stuff like that in the consideration. So it says 4.5 maybe because his cardio is probably similar to Aldo's. But I guarantee you he's going to have a better chin. He's probably going to have better recovery. He's going to have, and it's a legacy Conor too, right? So it's not going to really be the same. Even though 4.5, there's a reason the top 3 guys you guys will see in comp play is usually Volkanovski, Holloway, and McGregor. Topuria has been working really good in UFC 4 as a good counter to Max Holloway, I've been noticing. Still having a tough time with the counters and Vokes if they try to opt to grapple too much because UFC 4 doesn't have the TBS system. But be on the lookout for Topuria. If you guys saw my match against Marshall Mind, Topuria with that level 5 snap jab, and I recommended that after his bout against Josh Emmett, that shit's working. So that's pretty cool. The other thing I want to talk about too with this star system, right, is this is going to parlay into ranked, right? Because now people, they talk about ranked, they talk about more weight classes, more fighters, but usually guys use the best fighters in ranked championships, right? They want to win. They want to choose the best fighters. A lot of the same people I see that complain about the lack of fighters will be using the same fighters. However, I do see an issue, right? This is the new game, correct? And if we're going to be having the star rating system, it is very, very important that we have, at the bare minimum, the top 10 of each weight class, right? So we can already list off most of these guys, say, in bantamweight already here. The only guys that we're missing are Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez, in UFC 4, guys missing in UFC 4. Ricky Simon, Chris Gutierrez, Umar Nurmagomedov, right? So, damn, I said top 10. You know, top 15, I would like them to have the entire top 15 in the game. I would like that. I think that would make sense, right? So I'm hoping by launch, because I have no idea I legit have no idea who's going to be in the game by launch. I would like these 5 guys to be in the game, right? It's only fair. They're in a top 15. Flyweight has been one of the most devoid. It's one of the most barren divisions in the game. It has Ray Borg still, John Dodson, Juicy Formiga, you know, a lot of guys. The only guys in here that I recall that are in the game in UFC 4: Brandon Moreno, Davison Figueiredo, Brandon Royval, Kai Kara France, Alex Perez, Tim Elliott. So we're still missing in UFC 4 Amir Albazi. He's number 3. Mateus Nicolau, number 6. Manel Cape, 8. Matt Schnell, 9. Muhammad Makayev, 11. Samuel Jerry. Tagir Ulambekov, 13. Steve Ursay, that guy's clean. David Drovrak, right? All these guys in top 15. It's not a full, and I think it's a really bad look. You're promoting a lot of the fighter roster, but I am hoping, please, for the love of God, yeah, y'all gotta have these guys off rip in the game. At least at the bare minimum, the entire top 10. See, in lightweight, I think lightweight was one of the weight classes they were on lightweight, because we have everybody in the top. Are they still top 10? Okay, cool. Everybody in the top 10. I would like to see Jalen Turner, right? I still like to have Jalen Turner. Bobby Green's there, Ronaldo Moicano, right? Matt Frivola, judo, but I think those guys should all be in. We have welterweight right here. Who's in here? Sean Brady. I think if Sean Brady had defeated Bilal Muhammad, he would have been in the game by now, but he lost that belt, so I mean, he's still top 10, so he should be it. Jeff Neal, boy, I've been saying Jeff Neal needs to be in this game. And I hope he better be in the game by launch. Jad de la Madalena Macarena, he got added like in the last patch. Welterweight's pretty active. So the guys we're missing, that guys that aren't in UFC, that are not in UFC 4, Jeff Neal, Sean Brady, Ian Machado, Gary. Right, those 3 guys in the top 15 at welterweight are not in the game. For middleweight, Roman Dolidze is not in UFC 4. Brendan Allen's not in UFC 4. Nasruddin Imavov is not in UFC 4. We need Paul Craig in middleweight. We need to have a middleweight version of Paul Craig. Chris Curtis is not. Andrew Munoz is not in the game. Anthony Hernandez, Mr. Fluffy, he's not in there in UFC 4. Light heavyweight. Let's see how updated light heavyweight is. Ryan Spann, I don't think is in UFC 4. I could be wrong. Asma Musakanov, he's not in UFC 4. Alonzo Menafield and Dustin Jacoby, he's not in UFC 4. So we have all these guys. Martin Boudet, Marcos, Rogerio de Lima, Alexander Romanov, we have Jairzinho. I don't think we have Marcin Tybura. Marcin Tybura should be in the game. He's been in the UFC for a long, long time. Jailton Almeida, Sergey Spivak. Then they have everybody else here. Is this actually I know Mayra Bueno Silva is definitely. Oh, this is the pound for pound list. Mayra Bueno Silva. She needs to be in the game for sure because she just choked out Holly Holm, right? So she needs to be in the game. Right here. Hell yeah, because Nunes vacated. So I know that kind of went on longer than expected, but my point is, some of these weight classes do have their top 10. I would like for it to be a completely updated roster by the time launch drops. Because if you're promoting all this, leading into ranked championships, we want to have options. And not only do we need to have options, we need to make sure that every guy is viable. Everybody has what they're good at. Just because somebody is not a title contender does not mean that they don't have an effective thing that works, right? I remember in UFC 3, a lot of the devs, and I wasn't a game changer at the time. I just kind of noticed, I'm like, y'all just don't want to give out level 3s, 4s to just anybody. And it puts a lot of guys who have an effective ability to not be able to showcase that in the game. So you get these guys who have better stats and better move levels, and they never really adjusted it in that game from what I noticed. So now we're going to segue into ranked, right? With ranked, it was recently known that that 24-hour clock was pretty much because it was an old build. It is apparently exactly going to be like UFC 4. And Marshall had posted out a tweet after his video. Basically, the rundown of the video is that it's that. And the rationale behind why it's been like that is because in UFC 2 and 3, there was an issue with the load time. Those two games, you were able to pick every single weight class, but it led to things where people were staying in specific weight classes and you weren't able to get a fight because people would just avoid playing. I'm not playing this weight class. Screw this weight class. My suggestion has been to at least make us choose 4 or 5. Usually the main competitive weights tend to be bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. That's where we see usually like the best matchups per se. But if you would give something like a bonus to somebody choosing all the weight class, I think that'd be really cool. But they'd have to make you choose 4. So in this poll, and I voted on this poll, I chose the second option. This is what Marshall said. Free to choose weight classes on ranked is highly unlikely at this point. When it comes to what we have though, which would you prefer? It's important as many of you as possible answer this poll. So the first option, which got 32.8%, exactly as UFC 4, 1 hour. The second option, which I voted for, 30 minutes, 2 to 3 weights. Third option, 30 minutes, 1 weight. And the fourth option, which I think is the worst one, is 15 minutes, 1 weight. I don't think you can really get anything done. As a content creator, I would prefer to be able to choose anything. But then that's also why I started using Quick Fight around the end cycle of UFC 4, because rank don't really show much with regards to skill, more so than the amount of time played, in my personal opinion, because I hit top 10 with 3.5-star fighters, and guys would have like 700 games and still be like top 20 because they use the best of the best fighters. So that's how I never really took rank too seriously. Although shout out GOAT1099, he's 100% the best ranked player on UFC 4 because that guy stays on it, and I've seen him use lower rated fighters. So shout out to homie GOAT1099. But I'll say this. I would not be opposed to 30 minutes of 2 or 3 weights if and only if they let us choose the weight. Because I cannot tell you the amount of times I've tried to do a showcase on UFC 4 and it would say middleweight and welterweight. And I needed to choose, I needed to do a showcase for somebody at welterweight that's not in both weight classes. And the game will keep giving me middleweight. I don't like that. I feel forced. It's like, dude, at the very least, if you're going to make me get stuck here and play in a weight class for 1 hour, let me choose which one of my options to load up in. So not only do I like that second option a lot better, let's be very vocal to EA and tell them, hey, can y'all let us choose that at least? Give us some direction. I understand that your reason is behind ranked, but please allow us to choose within that 30 minutes. Hey, dude, if it's, say, featherweight, women's weight, like a women's bantamweight or something, and heavyweight, right? I'm probably going to play featherweight the most. Right? Unless I'm doing a showcase for other weight classes. Can I just choose featherweight? I have no problem with that, right? I ain't no problem with that. Or, if you like the women's fighters, you're probably going to choose the women's weight class. Or if you want to be like Derek Lewis and want to knock somebody out for disrespecting Popeye's chicken, you guys can go ahead and play heavyweight. The point is, options. We need to have our options. And we can't have our options taken away from us that drastically. I understand the rationale, but I would really prefer if they do the second option and allow us to choose the 2-3 weights and give us that ability. If they can do at least that, I'm with it. If they can't, I'll be annoyed. I'll be sad. I'll be annoyed if I'm trying to get a showcase and I keep getting the same weight class because I want to fight better players, right? That's where the guys who take the game more seriously are going to be. So, there's 13 hours left. There's been 2,000 votes on this on Marshall Mind's Twitter. So, you guys can go look up his Twitter, Marshall Mind 1, and he will have this poll up. It's had 19K views, but only 2,000 people voted. So, your vote matters. So, please make sure that you vote on this. That's pretty much going to be the rundown for today. I still have yet to do my reaction to the deep dive. Well, I don't even call it a deep dive. It was like some type of presentation modes thing. So I'll give my thoughts on that. But hopefully you guys enjoy this breakdown. And yeah, I appreciate all of you. And y'all can all have a great night.